They feel comfortable about what's going on outside of work. I think you have to have priorities. And if you don't make your family a priority, I think it ends up hurting you and doing your job.
To hear more and to help us introduce your high school, GED, work ready, and college students to our CEOs, visit our website at realworldleaders.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, this is a special report. I'm Michelle Franzen. A ceremony at the White House highlighted President Trump's sweeping tariffs plan. In addition to tomorrow's 25% tariffs on foreign autos, ABC's Karen Travers has more on the tiered tariff plan set to take effect.
The first round would go into effect on April 5th at midnight. That's a 10% baseline tariff on all countries. The second one is a tariff that would go into effect on April 9th. And this is what the White House has been calling reciprocal tariffs on the worst offenders, the worst trade deficits that the U.S. has with its trading partners. And they say this is about 60 countries.
Republican Senator Rand Paul calls it a tax on goods that will hurt Americans in the long run.
Tariffs on trade between us and Canada will threaten our country with a recession. I think they're a terrible idea economically.
So far, Canada and Mexico are spared from the new tariff plan. This is ABC News. A Connecticut woman is searching for a lottery ticket which could make her a millionaire. The problem? She donated a jacket with the ticket tucked inside.
76-year-old Mildred Simone Relito says there's not much she can do except
cry out loud.
She bought a lottery ticket last May at the Shop and Save in Murraysville, Pennsylvania, and put it in her pocket.
I remember saying, if I put it here, I won't forget it.
2 weeks later, when she saw the numbers,
I realized that it won. It hit.
Only by the time she realized it, she had donated the coat the ticket was in to Vietnam Veterans of America. She's gone back to Shop and Save. They confirm she's got to have the physical ticket to win her $2.5 million prize. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
The deadline, May 8th. A judge dismissed corruption charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams with prejudice, meaning the case cannot be revived. The Trump administration paused the case in hopes of getting Adams to cooperate with the Trump administration's immigration agenda. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives. I'm Todd McKinley in Northeast Tennessee, joined by my co-host, Colonel Chris White in Central PA, and John Grosvenor holding down the studio, a little under the weather today there in Nashua. Gentlemen, how are you?
I'm all right. It's sad to hear that John's still ill. Wasn't he ill last week? What's going on, man?
Yeah, I tell you what, man. I'm kicking its butt. I really am. I'm kicking its butt. It's just taking some time. I'm like the turtle, slow and steady.
You spreading that COVID all over New England for the second time?
No, none of that here now. Come on.
All right, just checking.
He refuses to admit that he was diagnosed with COVID. Oh, it's just a light flu.
No. I was just smart enough not to take the jab.
No, I get you.
It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah, just a tiny pinprick, my friend. Tiny pinprick.
Would you say what prick is it? What's
Pinprick. Just a tiny little
pinprick.
Pinprick, everyone. Hello. Yes.
So breaking the signal there. I didn't catch the whole thing.
Sorry,
Somebody's got a bit of a Monty Python thing going on here.
I was adjusting something. So I was adjusting my little table. I keep my computer on. So yep. So what's been going on since last week? I mean, a lot of Dems are out of control, right? Tariffs are seeming to be out of control.
Wait a minute, Todd.
ahead.
You forgot to wish everybody happy
Happy
day of
Liberation. That's right, Liberation Day.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I was jumping in. Happy Liberation Day to everybody. What are we liberated from today?
Repressive repressive tariffs from around the world. Do you know that countries that whine about free trade impose outrageously high tariffs? South Africa imposes 60% tariff on U.S. goods, and we gave them 0% on about $3 billion worth of trade and 2.5% on the other $11 billion trade, while they charge us 60% to send goods there. It's insane.
Oh wow, amazing! 60% tariffs, and they want it for free. Huh? I don't think so. Sorry.
Lesotho is 99%, and Tunisia is 70 something, and then Botswana 74%. Yeah, it's crazy. And if you look at Europe, the reason why you don't see Cadillacs all over the place is because it's 10% tariff. And we charge them 2.5% to ship their cars here. No longer. Now they're getting a 25% tariff.
There we go. Yeah, I noticed that a bunch of car dealerships are stocking up on a lot of pre-tariff vehicles to stock up on the inventory, if you will.
Well, that's not what's going to hurt, guys. What's going to hurt is if you have a foreign manufactured car and you need to repair a part, that's going to hurt you, because you can avoid buying a car in most cases. Just gut it out with what you've got till this stuff is over. But the prices for tariffs, 25% on auto parts, take effect in May. So you better go get your spare carburetor or spare, piston or whatever it is you might need for that thing that breaks down your car, because the prices are going to go up exorbitantly on May 1st.
Yeah, or salvage yard. Here I come.
Yep. Yeah, I've got my truck in right now for service, and it's 20 some years old. This truck needs a new reservoir for the windshield washer fluid. And I just thought about that today. I'm like, imagine what would the price go up for just a windshield washer reservoir in tariffs,
Oh, it will. And not just that, go to the junkyards now, because the demand will be higher for junkyard parts. And so they're going to jack up the prices on you. If you go right now, you could probably get a reservoir for 10 or 15 bucks, maybe less, depending on which junkyard you go to. You just have to take it out of the Vic yourself. But if you order that thing, I bet you it's $100 for that piece of plastic.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And there I am, just with a hammer and an anvil, and I'm just hammering out fresh new parts, bro.
Okay.
I can't afford to buy them. I'm going to manufacture my own.
I thought you were carrying. I thought you were carrying an anvil to the junkyard. I'm like, what kind? What are you, Superman?
No, not to the junkyard.
Yeah. So these parts you're making, how are they going to look though? Are they going to fit? They're going
to be ugly as all get out. It's going to be like Frankenstein did some work over here on my pickup truck. But when you do body work and all the rivets are showing, yeah, that's me.
That sounds like my mechanic.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, it's not about how good it looks, it's how well it functions. It's like men. We're ugly, but we're utilitarian. We get the job done.
Well, you've heard the phrase before: if women don't find you handsome, at least they find you handy.
That's right.
Right.
That's
so Linda
Linda
McMahon, the education secretary, for however long that's going to still be sticking around, went outside her building there in Washington, D.C., the Department of Education headquarters. And while the Democrats were holding a presser, and she actually went out and gave remarks, I guess, in the spirit of being bipartisan, she said.
How'd that go?
Well, apparently, she didn't take any questions, though. She walked away after making her remarks. So I think basically she's thinking about, you guys are going to perform a stunt out front of the Department of Education. I'm going to go perform a stunt real quick and interrupt your press conference. But I'm actually going to sit there and put out a statement and basically troll a little bit. I think she was. I love it.
It's lucky that I wasn't the MC for the event. In this corner, pink-haired, purple-haired lunatics who are burning Teslas. And from this corner, weighing 133 pounds, it's Linda McMahon. Let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah, right.
and he says this. I happen to notice that he's wearing a blue pullover. He's got a blue microphone on Day of Liberation.
That's like a purple pullover, I think.
It's purple. Liberation here.
Yeah.
His vision's messed up by the flu.
Yeah.
It's purple. I got a purple t-shirt, a purple. Now the microphone is blue, but I'll fix that and change it to purple right now. Make you happy.
Achoo. It's not COVID.
What's wrong with your shoe?
Oh, I love it. Oh, achoo.
All right. Now my mic is also purple.
There
Yeah,
you
for the
go.
pe-
I'm
people
more
who-
satisfied now. It matches your on air sign in the background.
It does.
Yeah, there you go. I like the eclectic mix back there. So, what are the balls back there? Are those are rugby balls back there, right? Rugby, or is there any? I don't think there's a soccer ball back there, right? I'm looking at their shelves back there.
Soccer, sacrilege. No, no, no,
All
no,
right.
no, 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 no. That's he's got big balls. She's got big balls. But who's got? I'm sorry, that's a Queen song. Yes.
No, that was ACDC.
That's ACDC.
but-
Yeah.
Oh, it's
but
ACDC.
You're on the right
Oh,
track.
all right, I'm on the right track. Sorry, ACDC. Yeah, I was. All right, maybe I'm affected by the flu. Actually, I have rugby balls behind me. I've got the Women's World Cup located over my left shoulder there from 2017 in Ireland. Down here where you really can't see right now because my name is on there. I've got the mini rugby balls from the 2018 Sevens World Cup in San Francisco and the 2022 Sevens World Cup in Cape Town, South Africa. On the top shelf, there's a limited edition, only 500 of those made in the entire world. A certificate ball, a special one for the Springboks World Cup victory in Japan in 2019. And then the other is just another special ball. I think there were more of those made, but this is a limited edition ball. I think originally it cost like $500 for that ball. I paid $40 for it because they had overstock. I guess people couldn't afford $500.
Right.
So
No,
about a year and a half later, I'd like a vulture of the guys that hang around those storage bins that come in and buy everybody's crap for $30 when they auction them off.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I got a box full of that, and it's this all these. I get everything for like $100. It would have cost me over $1,000. So yeah, it's really nice. I've got a bunch of rugby balls, bunch of rugby jackets.
You were purchasing like people buy stocks. You were just waiting for it to drop.
That's right. Well, I mean, you take the risk, you can never get it, but I mean, I didn't have it and I didn't need it. I just wanted it. So if you can just wait and be patient, then sometimes things come your way. It's not like Disney World. I'll never be able to go there because it's just so woke. It'll never come down to where I can accept it. Even if they gave me entrance for $10, I wouldn't go to Disney World.
No. What about Disneyland? That may be $100. I don't know. $10.
Nah, neither. I've been to Disney World in Florida, and I've been to Tokyo Disney and Euro Disney. Yep.
Wow, I've been into Disney stores. That's about it. It's close as I've come to Disney right there. Disney store and Times Square. That's about it.
Ironically, the best one was Euro Disney when it opened and it had all kinds of financial trouble, but it was not too crowded back in the early 1990s, and it was really nice, but very expensive even then.
I grew up in Florida, man. Disney was just like a normal day at the theme park. Everybody else is so excited to be there, and you're like there for your 156th time.
Right.
Well, that was before they hated America.
Oh yeah. We're talking about 1980 stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a geezer, so it was way back in the day.
A geezer.
So quick question for you guys, a little poll here. Do you consider burning the Teslas, if you will, domestic terrorism, or do you commit it just a crime or vandalism crime?
Well, the intent. See, the thing about terrorism, it has a definition. You have to have the capability, the motivation, the means, and intent. They have all of that. The intent is to terrorize and frighten people. It is terrorism. They should be in Guantanamo Bay. Case closed.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing Chris did. It's all about their intention. They're falling right under the very definition. If you look at the FBI's website and stuff like that, the very definition of terrorism.
Yeah. Well, Senator Mark Kelly retired. I think was he a general or just a retired colonel? I know he's an astronaut.
No, he was a lieutenant colonel or a full colonel. He's an astronaut. Yeah.
Yeah, so former astronaut, he refused to call it domestic terrorism. He's like certainly vandalism is a crime, but he refused to call it domestic terrorism, and he kept being asked over and over and over. He still would never give in. Still doesn't believe it's domestic terrorism. I'm like, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That just shows you how dishonest politicians are, and he tarnishes his reputation as an officer in the military by lying like that. He knows it's terrorism. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
What wasn't his wife shot?
Yes.
Was it? Yes. She was one that was
shot. Gabby Giffords?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gabby Giffords.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you would think you'd be a little bit more hard about this. The sort of behavior is threatening, and their intention, like Chris was saying, is to scare people, to stand up with them, to scare people so that they can change policy, and
right,
politics or government, and you would think that he, in a position like that, who was a staunch advocate against guns or against gun rights, that he would take more of a specific stance against them instead of standing up for them. So it's kind of ridiculousness on his part, I think.
So the problem with the senator is he's a fool, and I have no compunction about saying that, because he is a lawmaker. He should be familiar with the law to make the law. Domestic terrorism, as defined by the FBI for their purposes, is referenced in U.S. Code 18, 2331, paragraph 5. It clearly states what terrorism is: involving acts dangerous to human life that are in violation of the criminal laws of the United States or of any state, appearing to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. Case closed. You're done.
Right.
He should be voted out of office the first opportunity.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears over to the House real quick. House is divided on whether or not they should allow for people to vote, whether it's through proxy or remotely, I guess in this case, for new parents, if you will, because a lot of females are now serving in the House of Representatives and, of course, the Senate, and they're trying to set up a situation where new parents can actually vote remotely. And, of course, it's bitterly divided. And now the House speakers had to shut down the vote there because it sits in such chaos. Do you think that members of Congress should be able to vote remotely or through a proxy in a situation like this or similar situation?
I do not. I do not. Members of the House who are in hospital aren't able to vote remotely, are they? I think that's nonsense. So why we should make special case for nursing mothers? Give them a wet nurse room and let them nurse there. Case closed.
We already had this debacle with the auto pin over here in the White House. We don't need these problems over here in Congress.
Exactly. I mean, who's actually no? You must be physically present to vote. If you can't manage that, that's just too bad. Then your party won't get its liberty suppressing legislation passed. Give them wet nurse room. Give them a place where they can nurse their kids. At the, I mean, we got plenty of room for everything else. I mean, if we can give an office to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, just take her office, make her work in the hallway. You can use her office to nurse your children.
Absolutely. Yeah, there you go.
I don't know too many kids that go to school that get to answer present when they're at home.
Right. Yeah, but think about this. I mean, like, it would have the potential, unless you could truly verify that it's that person actually voting, to be misused by staff or something like that. Especially the way some of these members of Congress could be hid away by staff. We've seen them hide away a president for 4 years, for crying out loud. You can easily hide away a member of Congress for 2 years, 4 years or more easily.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's not even that, Todd. It's not even that. So we're told that men and women are the same. They're not. Biologically, they're different. And behavior-wise, they're very different.
Yeah.
And that's not a dig on men or women. That's just a statement of fact. So we're told that they're the same. Well, if they're the same, then why are we making special conditions for women who have children? You chose to be there. You have an obligation. It's no different than the military. We served in uniform. You have an obligation to serve. That doesn't mean you can't have children, but you have to be responsible about how you go about having children. And so I have no empathy for this whatsoever. This is utter nonsense. This is just laziness, and this is unacceptable. The folks that this affects should perform their job. They should come to work. And if they need to step out to nurse, then they can step out there and debate. When, like in the Senate, when idiots like Cory Booker talk for 25 hours, you can step out during that and do your nursing.
Right.
Same thing in the House. So, no, this is unacceptable. If they can't perform the job, then they shouldn't be in Congress. The job is to be present and vote present. The moment we let standards slip, we get what we had in the military recently, a disaster.
There are more pressing matters too, as far as these 2,000-page bills that they get 3 days to read. They need to start focusing on some of this stuff where people have time to read these bills and these issues with midnight votes. I love it when Martin Luther Green comes out and says, hey, yeah, everybody, I missed that vote last night because nobody notified me there was a midnight vote. And this is a way for them to be dodging votes that they don't want in there to get a bill passed.
But John, you just don't understand, brother. We'll read the bill after we vote for it. Okay, we're going to read the bill after we vote for it.
I think that is what is that, like some sort of House policy now or something?
Apparently, apparently, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So John, what's going on with New Hampshire at the moment? I want to ask you, like, how's the next election shaping up there? And I know I love to ask you this, but we do broadcast out of New Hampshire, so we should at least talk a little New Hampshire here.
All right, so I'm not sure exactly how the next election is shaping up, but we're doing a really good job with sticking to the GOP standards as far as the Trump policies and stuff. And so this state is following. It's great when I see people outlining states that can be cut out of the United States for being liberal, and they're marking all the blue ones, and they keep New Hampshire red. I'm like, thank you. One of the bills coming up now was put the committee yesterday, and hopefully it'll hit the floor for vote, is HB 649, and that's to get rid of that darned, that's me, man. Yep, hands up. So they're trying to get rid of the inspections. We got mandatory auto inspections every year up here, and it's ridiculousness. And people get fleeced by some of these shops. They're unscrupulous, and I've seen it. I've seen it too many times. So hopefully we get this HB 649 out on a floor vote so that we can get that passed and get rid of these annual inspections and stop fleecing people for $45 a year for what, you know? I mean, you got states like Florida, never had it. And they don't have, and it's a bigger state. They don't have any more issues than we have here in New Hampshire, you know?
Right. Right, absolutely. Now, what's funny is shifting gears here real quick to the former president, Joe Biden. His former chief of staff, Ron Klain, said on MSNBC earlier that he was fatigued, befuddled, and disengaged before his debate with President Donald Trump. He said at his first meeting with Biden in Aspen Lodge, and President's cabinet author Chris Whipple wrote, Klain was startled. He never seen him so exhausted and out of it. Biden was unaware of what was happening in his own campaign. Halfway through the session, the president excused himself and went off to sit by the pool and just kind of sit there and stared out at the pool for some time. It doesn't indicate how long, but apparently didn't know what the heck was going on or where he was at. To me, if your chief of staff's coming out and saying this, some of these auto pinned John stepped away, sorry, but some of these auto pinned basically reprieves, if you will, or pardons have got to truly be looked at. I mean, if your former chief of staff's telling you this, telling the American people this has got to be looked at. Some of these pardons have got to be either looked at or rescinded in one way or another. I don't know what the process would be, or if there is a process to rescind a pardon that wasn't given by the actual person whose hand it's supposed to be given under.
Well, I think you got a big point there. You know, this whole thing with these pardons, you know, what's going to be challenged by Trump is not whether the president has the power to pardon, it's whether Joe Biden actually gave the pardon. And that's
right.
This auto pen stuff. So that's a serious issue here, and it applies across the board. So again, back to the thing about the House. That's why you got to be present, man. You got to show up for the job so we know it's actually you that said something. So
Yep. So for those who are watching, John has to step away on occasion. He's a little under the weather. But if you're listening, you obviously don't see him step away. But for those who do watch the broadcast, John may step away from time to go powder his nose at you, COVID.
He's gonna ride that COVID thing. I promise you, it's not. People gonna be lined up outside to kick me in the butt as I walk out the door.
Yeah, I assure my constituency, I do not have the COVID.
I'm just saying, doctor said something about H1N something.
Right? Oh no, watch out.
Of course, we're joking with that too. It's just a common cold. That's all. No big deal. But
right.
I'm on the upswing on it and stuff.
All right, good deal. So, did anybody watch the Rose Garden festivities this afternoon when President talked about the tariffs? I didn't get a chance to watch any of it, and I really do need. So
I watched the whole thing.
Can you talk about it real quick? Because I know there was probably some things that went on that probably the people that are listening would want to know about. I didn't get a chance to watch any of it. I was in transition from getting home and doing a couple things.
No, I got back in time to listen to that as I edited a video for my program. But I was listening to that Trump, he's talking about, people didn't expect him to win, and, when he first ran the first time, they wrote him off, and within an hour, he was the top of the polls. He was the best. Anyway, that's right. Typical Donald Trump. But he talked about these tariffs. He said for too long, the occupants of the White House have screwed us, basically. They've allowed this country to be taken advantage of all over the world. And when you look at the level of tariffs now, people are going to start pushing back and say, that isn't really the tariff. Well, it's tariff, currency manipulation, and artificial trade barriers preventing our goods getting in, which basically drive a percentage addition to the price for a good getting or service getting into a country. So basically, it is a tariff, whether it's formal or otherwise. But it's shocking to see the levels of tariffs that we're being charged by other countries, and they get a free pass to come to America. It's no wonder our industrial production is offshore, where it's cheaper to produce, and then they come to the country with virtually no tariffs, while our goods can't be shipped if they're manufactured here to places because they're high tariffs. I mean, some countries impose like 180% tariffs on motorcycles. And so Harley Davidson can't ship their motorcycles anywhere. So instead, you get countries like Vietnam that make tons of little crappy motorcycles, and people buy them because they're inexpensive because of the tariffs that are placed on Harley Davidsons. And it's really unfortunate. But Trump, he spoke for a while. He talked about this, and he talked about the golden age of America once again. And I think he was spot on with his comments. He was well greeted by the crowd. It was a friendly crowd, that's for sure. And it's a typical Trump, and he was on point, and he did a good job. It's hard to believe this guy's almost 79 years old.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question. I've seen a lot of stuff on social media, and to include people who have been Trump supporters in recent years, to include this most recent election, who are talking about the tariffs aren't going to work. Here's the issues with tariffs, and they're not supportive of it. What are your thoughts? Do you think they're going to have the desired effect that Trump wants or his administration wants?
Well, it's hard to say. I think the ubiquitousness of it now, I think the reciprocal tariffs, anyone who tries to complain about that has just got no basis to complain. And if Europe is charging us 10%, we raise ours from 2.5 to 10%, that's only fair. So
Right.
they're going to have a hard time defending that. Others who think they're being punished are going to have a hard time defending too, because except for the tariffs he's announced against Canada, Mexico, and China, the 25% tariffs and so on, aside from those, and then the one imposed for autos now, he really has countries have no basis to complain. South Africa's charging us 60%. We are basically charging them nothing. We're raising it to 30%. If we raise 60%, they still wouldn't have a basis complaint. If we raise it 100%, then they can complain. So there's no basis to their complaints. And I think that undermines their arguments. As far as whether the tariffs are free or fair, fair or whatever, let me just put this in context. So we were sending criminals back to Colombia. We had aircraft overflight clearance. You know this story. And we took off with 2 C-17s to fly these dirtbags back to Colombia, who are Colombian nationals. The president himself apparently had approved those landing rights. And then as they're about to land and get over halfway there, they say, no, you can't come here. No, you're not going to take advantage of us. We're not letting you do this. You're treating our people so poorly. I guess the president of Colombia thought he was pretty clever. But then, of course, we see Donald Trump getting the word on the golf course and pulls out his cell phone and starts typing up a message.
Right.
It says, all right, today, 25% tariffs in Colombia effective immediately. Next week, if they don't rescind, 50%. Within 1 hour, Colombia capitulated. All right.
Yeah, go ahead. But
so you gotta get your point. A lot more.
Yeah,
done.
no, I heard that he basically but before he finished the round, that he had rescinded the tariffs basically at that point.
Exactly, because they capitulated. So Canada is complaining about tariffs, but Justin Trudeau resigned over the tariffs because he knew he'd get destroyed in an election. So we're glad to see Justin Trudeau go. I just like to see him in a jumpsuit, with charges pending for his behavior, what he did to the truck drivers in Canada. The guy's a fascist terrorist and needs to go to prison for his actions, which were unlawful. So Trudeau resigned. Then we've got Panama, which was not listening to the president. And the president said, if you don't get the Chinese out of the Canal Zone, then we will impose X tariffs on you. Within a couple of days, Panama capitulated. So Colombia, Panama, Canada, that's 3. And then the fourth one, which nobody talks about, Denmark has been ignoring the United States' demands since Trump was president last time to start patrolling the Arctic waters around Greenland because it's a threat. With the year-round open passage in the Arctic Sea for ships going through there, the Chinese in particular, but also the Russians have been showing their muscle and throwing their weight around and endangering shipping up there and trying to claim things for themselves, particularly minerals. So they've been telling, because it's part of NATO, it's part of Denmark, that they must do something. They've ignored us for years. Trump threatens tariffs on Denmark specifically, and a week later, Denmark suddenly decides to spend $1 billion buying three cruisers and frigates to patrol the waters around Greenland and build a naval base there. So tariffs do work. The threat of tariffs work, and in those, for instance, they have. Now, will they work going forward? You got to be very careful because you can get into a reciprocal war here and things can go ugly. But as far as people paying the price for tariffs, depending on the level of tariff, you might not pay anything. Here's an example. Let's say Trump puts a 15% tariff on Chinese cell phones coming here, okay? Like Huawei and other things. So they already have tariffs on Huawei because they're law breaking. But I'm just pick that. So they put let's go South Korea because everybody has a Samsung. So South Korea.
Right.
So Trump puts a 15% tariff on South Korea. Okay. Well, Samsung needs this market. It's the biggest market in the world for their phones. So their options are to pass the 15% tariff along to the consumer. Their options are to eat part of the cost and to keep their market share and allow the rest to flow to the consumer. So it's not too big a price increase. So like say they eat 8% of the tariff by only raising their prices by, a little bit, and then 7% falls on the consumer. Or they simply eat the entire cost. So people always say it's a zero-sum game. For the consumer, it isn't necessarily a zero-sum game. In most cases, it's a bad situation, but there are plenty of cases where the market share is more important to the provider than the tariff and the loss of profitability. So they'll take that risk in the short term. It depends on how long they last. Hopefully this will end quickly. We'll see. But right now, I think Trump has the upper hand, and none of these countries know what to do. They're going crazy. They either want to kiss the ring or they want to complain about America in the press, or they want to do both. You can't do both.
Right, absolutely. On a funny side note, I've seen people complain about Kid Rock, who this past week went to the White House, and people talked about what he wore, and they're like, why would we allow him to wear this into the White House, into the West Wing, Oval Office, etc.? But we gave Zelensky such a hard time, and I'm like, well, the difference is Kid Rock is an entertainer, whereas Zelensky's a world leader, an elected representative of his country. There's quite a bit of difference there.
Head of a state, yes.
Yeah.
There's a certain decorum that's expected.
Absolutely.
Unless your name is Fetterman.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he dresses like you, except you probably have a nicer sweatshirt on right now than he would.
I dress much nicer than John Fetterman. My worst
Yeah,
day, trust
no,
me.
I'm just saying the sweatshirt you got.
I don't think he wears basketball shorts to
No, I
put
don't
on
think he does either.
a meeting or.
No.
To quote The Sopranos, a Don doesn't wear shorts, right?
That's what I hear, but certainly
That's
John
what-
Fetterman does.
Yeah, into the Senate. Yeah, he's no Don. I can tell you that. World War II veteran from Ohio, a 104-year-old, has invited President Donald Trump to his birthday party, and that's going viral. I would love to see him send a letter or something, or maybe who knows, maybe just show up. I don't know, invite him to a rally, something. Maybe to the White House. It'd be kind of great. 104-year-old World War II veteran.
Well, that would be exciting. It'd be exciting to see because be like 104-year-old be like, come on over here, Sonny. Let me talk to you to the 79-year-old.
Yeah, 79-year-old. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, it's my late great aunt. She passed away in her late 90s, and she would go to elderly homes, if you will. And she's like, well, I'm going to go visit the old folks. It's like you realize that they're probably just young enough to be your kid,
or grandkid,
But she's going in there, and some of these people, are in their 70s, and they're like, oh, poor pitiful so and so. He's just so old. And I'm like, you're 20 years older than him. What are you talking about? But anyway, it was just funny. The old people is what she called them. I'm going to see the old people. Oh, I loved it. And she would drive herself there too at 94, 95 years old.
So the problem with that, folks, is if you haven't recognized this, and if you're in your 20s, is that you can complain about old people, but before you know it, it creeps up on you, and you're howling at the old people, and you look in the rearview mirror, and guess who's staring back at you? Old people.
Old people, absolutely.
You start to not recognize yourself in the mirror anymore. You're like, who's this?
Yep. So the good news is we all get older. The bad news is you don't look like you did in your 20s. For some people, that's actually good. They look better when they're older.
And sometimes you find hair growing off your earlobes.
I don't have that problem.
You haven't had that problem yet. Oh, lucky you.
No, I guess I'm not old.
You're more of a geezer than I am. Look at you with all that white hair.
Geezer? Oh no, this is Silver Fox territory, my friend.
Yeah,
Silver Fox.
That's code for what is that code for? Like an old player,
right?
Old man player. He's out there playing the field.
Slow your roll, player. Slow your roll.
That's right. That's code for a player. That's right. You got it.
Right.
Old player, geezer player.
What are some things right now that are going on that you guys want to touch on that's going on around the world that we probably haven't touched on just yet?
Well, I would like to talk about my farmersonly.com account. So,
right, yeah. Now they're going to ban that one next. The FBI is going to come after that one. Sorry, farmer, you're out of here.
I think it's defunct. I don't think it's around anymore. But farmersonly.com.
Did they have like a song?
Yeah, only.com.
That sounds that sounds like a song, right? Yeah, it was a hit song back in the day.
I probably went bankrupt.
I never heard of this.
Are you serious? I mean, I'm barely ever in the States. It was farmersonly.com. It was a dating service. Yeah, I'm barely in the States, and I know the commercials. Yeah, the song still sticks in my head. It's one of those earworms. I think it must have gone bankrupt because they spent all their money on adverts.
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, nobody's going to join something like that. I don't know. Trump's envoy Witkoff to meet in D.C. with Putin's envoy, I think in the next week or so, to discuss a ceasefire and everything with Ukraine. I think this was just reported earlier this afternoon. This just came out. So should be interesting to see how this thing gets wrapped up in Ukraine. But Trump's not going to get any credit, and there's not going to be any Nobel Peace Prize coming his way, I'm sure.
Well, true, but I mean, look, I can end this war in just a weekend. If they just gave me one or two ODAs, 2 Delta Force special teams, I can end this a weekend. All I do is send my Delta Force teams in, and I take Zelensky, and I take Putin to the Black Sea, and I tie him in a chair, and I'd force him to watch Taylor Swift all weekend. It'd all be over by Monday.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Oh, my eyes!" Make
it stop!
Retreat!
Make it stop!
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what do you think the outcome is going to be there in Ukraine? I mean, at what point are they going to say, "Okay, we're done"? What does a win look like for Russia or Ukraine? I think a win for Ukraine is getting Russia out of their land, or at least to stop fighting us.
We might see some situation where Russia retains most of the land they've captured, and they give a small concession up, and that might be how it ends. But Russia would prefer to take all of the territory east of the Dnieper River, basically a third of Ukraine, and incorporate it into Russia. It's a natural boundary. And that's what I said from the outset of this war in 2022. So that's that's on the table. That's what they really want. They're not going to get that. Ukraine's not going to get what they want with no Russians in their territory and guarantees their peace and entry to NATO. That's not going to happen. None of that. So that's why we're in an impasse here. At least Trump is engaging. There were no peace efforts ever by the Biden regime throughout the entire 3 years of conflict that they're responsible for. And as Trump rightly said, the war never would have happened if he'd been president. In fact, the war would have happened if any one of us had been president, because we got common sense. We would never have tolerated what happened to Crimea in 2014, unlike Barack Obama, who, between Victoria Nuland helping overthrow the government of Ukraine, and Barack Obama, drawing a line in the sand that he ignored, letting the Russians take Crimea without any consequences, we got to this stage. All we needed was another complete idiot in the White House, and we got one in the form of Joe Biden. And, the Russians said there'll never be anybody as stupid as this guy in the White House. We need to move now. Unfortunately for them, Putin believed his generals press that they're an impressive army. They're not. They're not even remotely an impressive army. They're just well equipped, and they squander that equipment. So the Russians have been in a meat grinder because their tactics are pathetic. Their leadership is atrocious, and their strategic and operational plans were very short-sighted.
Yep. Yeah, I guess they thought whenever they rolled into to Ukraine that they were going to be able to, look at this big army coming. Let's stop and then let's have a peace agreement and we'll be done. Of course, that's not going to happen whenever your very existence is threatened, for sure.
Well, throughout history, that people have taken tyrants down with the easiest of things. It was David and Goliath. Took him down. We saw Samson was taken out simply by cutting his hair. That was all his strength. We saw the Redcoats embarrassed and chased back to Boston at battles of Lexington and Concord by patriots hiding behind rock piles and trees. The Brits were incensed. They were indignant. What are they doing shooting at us? For the cowards? No, they're smart. You're dropping like flies, and none of them have been killed. Catch on, dummy.
Right.
So it's just the nature of warfare.
And these are the Brits that come to hang people.
Right.
Probably that they're going out to arrest someone.
They were looking for Samuel Adams, and they had some.
I think they did have some names. Like
they had arrest warrants. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think they were looking to hang him. I don't know if they wanted to arrest him.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they probably wanted to hang him, but I think they had an arrest warrant, which gave them authority to do that. So
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but have you ever watched any videos or seen any of the historical places that from Lexington to Concord all the way back to Boston? I mean, how the gauntlet that they had to run to try to get back there. I mean, it was just
they harassed them the whole way. It was a brilliant guerrilla activity on the part of the Patriots, and it really shocked the Brits. They had no idea what to expect. They lost a lot of people.
Yep. And then I guess there was the different reports were like they were coming out of the woodwork. They were overwhelmed with force. And it could have been just tens of them. You didn't know where they were coming from, where the volleys were going to come from, and of course around every corner, like any rock pile, whatever, you could have some American there, for lack of a better word, some patriot. You know what I'm saying? Like. The gauntlet these guys had to run, I would not be envious of these people.
That's probably the beauty of the Minuteman Project, right?
Yeah.
Is these guys were starting to get notified, and they're grabbing their muskets and running out there, and they're probably running into these Brits just as they're coming out there. Like, oh, here they come.
Right. And there were some people that just coming out of their house just to see what was going on, and the Brits started taking pot shots at them. And then, of course, whenever they started doing that, they're like, "Well, heck, I'm going to join in." They started firing as well.
You should have. I should have you.
Right. Yeah. Interesting, but so apparently
I don't think they had great aim with those old muskets. I think it was pretty much a crapshoot.
No, yeah, but an Army Reserve captain has decided in their uniform to make a TikTok video calling out Trump and his transgender policy, and of course the Army Reserve is taking appropriate action. Of course, being in uniform, you can't sit there and call out the commander in chief. I mean, you want to do something privately, that's one thing. You vote. Do something in a private text, whatever. But putting the uniform on, I'm sorry. There has to be a line. You do it as a private citizen, that's one thing. But while you're in uniform, I'm sorry, you don't get to state your public opinion or your political opinion against the commander in chief. It doesn't work that way.
No, we're prohibited by the Uniform Code of Military Justice from political activity. You can participate in protest, but you certainly can't do it with your rank insignia, with your uniform, because it gives the appearance that the U.S. Army endorses or the Marines endorse what you're doing and participate in it. And you cannot put that shame on a military service. Therefore, it's an offense. And I hope this person pays dearly for their behavior.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So what are some things going on? I know you talk about South Africa on a regular, and of course you have your regular shows, but you talk about it here, right? And I love bringing the international flavor into this show to talk about. We talk about how the problems we have in our own politics in America, but then you look at some of these places around the world, and you're like, man, maybe we don't have it so bad after all. What are some things that maybe people need to be updated? Some of our listeners who listen and watch from South Africa, what are some things that they might need to be focused on?
Well, South Africa, sure, but I also want to get a chance to get back to talk about Finland. Very big developments in
Go ahead.
Eastern Europe.
Go ahead.
I
Go
want
ahead.
to start with that then, but we can come back to South Africa later on.
Sure.
So the Ottawa Convention was signed in 1997, which is the anti-personnel mine ban, which didn't let people use mines, to injure people because they're devastating. It was a groundbreaking agreement in the constructivist worldview of geopolitics, and people said it was wonderful. The United States did not sign the treaty. The reason we didn't sign the treaty is because the only reason the North Koreans aren't pouring across the border is because there's 1 million mines in the ground between North Korea and South Korea, directed north, facing them. So that's why they've never come across the border. There's other reasons, but that's a big reason. So the U.S. said we have to have that as a deterrent, but we pretty much phased out use of landmines beyond that. So Finland didn't join the landmine treaty until 2012, when they destroyed 1 million mines that were on the border with what used to be the Soviet Union, now Russia. In 2012, they ratified the treaty and joined the Ottawa Convention, which was, over a decade old, going on 2 decades old. Now they've abrogated their participation. They've withdrawn from the Ottawa Convention, and they will begin placing landmines. In fact, they've already moved a border post back over the past few months in anticipation of where the mines are going to go to stop the Russians from coming across. That's how serious they take concern that the Russians are going to invade Finland. So that's a big issue right there. Interestingly enough, a month ago, the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, plus Poland, all abrogated the Ottawa Convention, left it, and they all are busy putting mines out on their borders with Russia. That's a pretty scary prospect when all these countries are suddenly putting landmines out. Do they know something we don't know, or are they just being prudent? I think it's a little bit of both, but mostly being prudent at this stage.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, I would dare say they probably are being prudent, but who knows? I mean, what kind of operatives they have, what kind of intelligence that they have that we don't have. Perhaps, Russia was going to do something and they're not going to now, but who knows what they might do in the future? I mean, look at what they did in Ukraine. They were doing a training exercise, and next thing you know, they're invading. Who knows what could happen? I mean, fast forward 4 years, Trump's out of office. Who knows? I mean, Kamala comes back in, she gets her 4 to 8 years. That Russia could invade nearly every country on their border, right?
Wow, we were supposed to have an agreement not to be swearing and cursing like that, bringing up names like Kamala.
No, I'm just saying, who knows who's coming next? I'm hoping it's going to be a Republican. Hopefully, it's going to be J.D. Vance. But who knows? I mean,
right? No, you got good points.
You thought Trump was going to be reelected back in 2020, and look what happened. And we had 4 years of devastation. It could happen again. People lose sight. People lose sight of what's important. People think, "Oh, Trump got it. He's going to take care of it. He's drained the swamp. We don't have to show up and vote next time because I'm not as excited for JD. Maybe his rallies aren't as lively as Trump's or whatever. And you don't show up to vote.
Well, we don't have to wait till that next time. We just saw it yesterday in Wisconsin,
sure,
where Trump won decisively in Wisconsin, and then the candidate for the Senate lost decisively. But it's more complicated than that. But they're saying it's a repudiation of Trump. It's not a repudiation of Trump. It's a reflection of the nature of the voting base in Wisconsin. And the fewer voters turn out, like there were a lot showing up for this one, but it's still less than general election. The fewer voters that turn out, the greater your likelihood of winning. It takes fewer votes to win.
Yep,
that's a valid point. But we still got to take into consideration election integrity issues. Just because Trump won doesn't mean that there's not issues going on, and I've known of some sense that where people have been picked, where they were running for office and they were told they weren't winning. I've met a lot of people like that. They were absolutely told they weren't winning. Some voters being disgruntled. Their votes aren't counting in primaries and stuff. Just saying.
Well, yeah, John, I take exception to that. I mean, the 2020 election was the most secure election in American history. The U.S. Cybersecurity Administration told me that the night of the election. How they're able to determine that when I had just turned in my vote totals less than 45 minutes prior, and they're already announcing that it was the most secure election in history. I'm not really sure how they pulled it off, but they're clairvoyant. Apparently, they can also see into the future. Like Nostradamus. Oh, yeah, it's the most secure election in history.
They made it determined about that by shaking the 8 ball.
Ah, the magic 8 ball. Oh, you're an
Yeah.
idiot. Shake. No.
Keep shaking until we get the answer we want.
That's right. That's a problem with that. It's like these people are like playing Twister. Yellow 5, blue 16.
Right. Well, check this out. The FBI has received a record number of applicants for agents in Cash Patel's first month on the job, 5,577. And of course, the previous record was April 2016, whenever they received 5,283. So I think Cash Patel and Donald Trump may be doing something right over there. If you're going to get that many applicants within the same month.
Well, it sounds like it is, but hopefully get some good applicants for the Secret Service because they have another threat on Donald Trump's life. Opposition political leader Julius Malema in South Africa sent a tweet out over a week ago in which he threatened Elon Musk and Donald Trump's life. So hopefully we've got good Secret Service agents.
So now we're having international threats. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, from a member of parliament in South Africa.
Wow.
Interesting. Any repercussions or just that pretty much free for all? They can say whatever they want to.
Well, he can say what he wants to, but I don't think he'll ever be coming to America.
No, I would imagine not anytime soon.
And he might not be able to go to Europe too. So we'll just see.
Yeah, he may be hamstrung, right? Yeah, or geo fenced in there.
He might be PNG'd, or as we like to say, because the former South African ambassador to the U.S. was sent home PNG'd a few weeks ago. His name is Ibrahim Rasool. So we now say that he might be Rasooled.
Rasooled. Yeah, he may be Rasooled instead of recalled. He's resooled.
That's right. Exactly. Some people can be resold, not as in the shoe, but as in their heart.
Right. Yeah, right. It needs to happen. Some people.
No doubt about it. Yeah. So the Finland thing is important. South Africa had a budget discussion today for the audience, and it was bizarre. It's like watching a clown car show. I mean, I've seen better circuses than this nonsense. Unbelievable, acting like children, petulant. They have a rule that before they vote, everyone gets to say their piece on the floor. They debate the bill, the budget. Then they take a 10-minute recess. You can leave the room, but you have to be back in the room when the 10 minutes is up, or they shut the door and you can't come in. Well, there's about 15 members of parliament out of 400 who never made it back. Who knows what they were doing? One of them walked in after the doors were shut and sat down. The opposition party said, point of order. This member of this party in front of me came in after the doors were closed. She can't be here. And they're like, yeah, you got to be here. Then the two opposition parties that hate freedom and liberty, like, go, just go. They're like 50 of them up in the stands. It was bizarre. It was intense. It was insane. But the bottom line is that they raised taxes on consumption. So the poor will be poor in South Africa, despite the party in charge being the party that claims it is the standard bearer for the poor. It's not.
Right. And talk about that tax for people in America who want to impose that tax here in the United States. I know people have talked about it before.
Which tax? I'm sorry?
Or consumption tax.
Oh, you're talking about value-added tax.
Yeah. Correct. VAT tax.
Not a fan of it, because in theory, the price of something means it's valued at that. So things are overvalued, and in my view, it drives inflation. But it's some people say it's a wash. I just personally don't care for it. It's a consumption tax essentially. So when you buy something, you pay if it says $100, it's worth that, but the seller's only getting 85 or getting 74 because the rest goes in taxes. So it's very deceptive, and it undermines, in my view, the economy. But it's all the rage in most of the world. Europe has value-added tax everywhere. Sweden's like 25% now. I think it is. It's crazy.
Part of the problem is it's overtaxed.
Yeah, overburdened, overtaxed. Yeah, taxed enough already.
Yeah.
I don't know about overtaxed, but I know what it feels like to be underappreciated.
Yeah, underappreciated. What about overappreciated? You ever been overappreciated?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
they haven't built any Chris Wyatt statues in recent past.
Overpraised. Yes. Oh, that's enough. That's enough.
They made a popcorn statue out of me for the Iowa State Fair. No, they didn't. You liar. No, they did. They melted down that Alan Jackson butter statue and put on the popcorn. They ate it all. That's why you can't
Alan Jackson butter statue. I love it. Yeah, you go to Iowa, man. You can see some stuff at the Iowa State Fair. Some
That's what I'm talking about. The Iowa State Fair. Been there, done that. Check that block.
Yeah, absolutely. I went there, and man, it was wild just seeing some of those butter statues. I'm like, that's actually butter. It's like a full size like cow, and it's like that's wild. Probably weighs almost as much as a real cow.
somebody's got a little too much time on their hand to be carving butter cows and Alan Jacksons and Garth Brooks out of butter. That's too much. No, it was the Garth Brooks was made out of popcorn. It's a popcorn statue at the Iowa State Fair, and then they made the butter statue out of Alan Jackson. That's a joke told by I think it was Bill Engvall, but still pretty funny.
Right? Yeah. You go watch some Garth Brooks popcorn popping and love it.
Iowa State Fair.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So VP Vance is probably one of the thus far, based on his current record, is one of the most active vice presidents we've actually ever had. It's kind of interesting, just in his travel and of course his time with the president. Very few vice presidents, with the exception of say maybe Dick Cheney, has ever had such unfettered access to a president and has been traveled as much as the current vice president has.
That's probably
at this point in their time in office. Kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, they haven't even been in office. They haven't even been in office for 3 months.
Right.
People are already freaking out. The prices of eggs. Dude, the guy's been there for 5 minutes. How could he affect the price of eggs? Get a grip.
That started a month before. What was month before he was even inaugurated?
Exactly. People are complaining. I heard on the radio today. Well, he's it's been 5 months. It's been 5 months. We elected him in November. Yeah, but he didn't have power until January 20th. Get a grip.
Yeah, at noon, right?
Stupid people should wear signs. That way you wouldn't ask them for anything. Here's your sign.
Oh, I didn't see your sign there. Sorry, buddy.
That's right. Yeah. I was going to. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't see your sign.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to ask you a question, but I didn't see that sign.
I'll take my chances on the street.
Yeah. The random man on the street question. Yeah. All right. So a few other things that are going on out there. Let's see here. There's a couple of top stories I wanted to hit on, but I lost the page. I had it up and it freaking refreshed on me. I do apologize. But yeah, so hit on a couple of things real quick that you guys are focusing on with regards to some of these special elections. People are talking about that it's a clear sign that Trump's popularity is waning, and I'm like, it has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with the individual running. It's a special election. People have to be told why you need to come out for a special election. It's usually the lowest turnout type of election that there is.
That's true, but the figures are actually up in this one because the Democrats galvanized a lot of their voters in Madison and Milwaukee. And those two, well, one of those counties alone is the entire difference in the race for Supreme Court. But I mean, people are freaking out and saying, oh, as you said, this is repudiation of Trump. No, it's not. The guy's been off side. Well, this one lady's on there. Well, I know a lot of people are angry. And why are they angry? Because the price of eggs hasn't come down. Really? That's why you're not going to support this government? Get a grip. You're just really delusional here.
Yeah, the price of eggs haven't came down fast enough. I'm like, give it the proper amount of time. Things will come down. Prices will settle. We shall see.
Yeah, but people just don't have patience. I mean, it's ridiculous to have voted for Trump in November, expecting things to change by April when the guy didn't come in office till the end of January. So, it takes some time. If at the end of the year you don't see progress that suits you, then you have a legitimate complaint. But you didn't complain when Biden was there for 4 years, destroying the country and the world. So get over yourself.
Well, that's kind of like they get on this whole thing about the tariffs. Trump's this terrible man with these tariffs. How dare he do this? He's going to destroy the country. What was Biden doing last year? Did Biden not raise 100% tariffs against China? Did Biden not raise 15% against lumber in Canada?
Soft timber imports, yep.
Yes, he did. And so he was raising tariffs and nobody said a word. Nobody even noticed.
That's because the political class and the media are dishonest. That's why I eviscerate them every day. That's why I'm hated, particularly in South Africa, because every time they say something stupid, and I pointed out that they have no recourse other than just, be angry and fume under their breath at me because they don't dare attack me because I'll take them to court for being slanderous.
So Greenland decided they don't want to be part of the United States since they got a new PM. You guys see that?
Yeah, I saw that. I wouldn't worry about it too much. I mean, Todd and I could, get a couple cruise serve weapons and conquer Greenland in about 3 hours.
Yeah.
A nation of 58,000 people. I mean, it's not huge.
You don't want to be a member of the United States? How about now? Yes, we do. God bless America. Yeah.
That's the trap question they keep asking. Well, are you ruling out military force? Trump never made any kind of suggestion about military force in here, and now all of a sudden they're trying to put on him like he's going to use military force to take Greenland. It was like a trap question, These leftists are nuts.
They are, absolutely, no question about it. But that's, I mean, look at them. They're running around burning Teslas. I mean, who owns Teslas? Leftists. And whose cars are they attacking? Leftists. You're eating your own. I love it. I mean, I don't love that people are destroying Teslas, but I love that they're eating their own. They're just so clueless. They're just so full of themselves.
The climate change fear mongers are setting cars on fire.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, what about the carbon footprint there? You just ruined your carbon footprint for the month by burning a Tesla, for crying out loud. You can't breathe for the next month or so because you burned this. Your carbon footprint is ruined here, pal. Stop
100%.
breathing, terrorist. Stop breathing, terrorist.
No, it's 100% of that. It's just the world is so upside down that people get away with all kinds of stuff, but not anymore. Trump is laying down the law, and the courts are trying to stop him. They're overstepping their bounds, but we'll just have to challenge them and see what happens.
That is an issue. We got a lot of leftist judges that have been somewhat effective, I guess, trying to be obstructionist.
I think you're right about that. And one of the viewers mentioned here that you're talking about what the other administrations did. Biden's Department of Agriculture killed 60 million hens laying eggs.
Yeah.
No wonder we have no eggs.
Yep, sure did. Claimed the bird flu.
Yep. Well, there's always influenza amongst birds. Get a grip, man.
Yep.
You don't remember how COVID was going to kill everybody on the planet? Remember that?
I'm not sure what Zuma maths.
That's a former president of South Africa who's functionally illiterate, and his mathematical skills are questionable. He said something like these 67,000 million trillion hundreds of ones. What? He said something like that one day, and people are still tripping out over it. So Zuma math.
Yeah.
His name is Zuma.
Yeah, Zuma math. I love it. Yeah. So DeSantis blasts the new elected Florida GOP congressman, says he's a squish. I guess they've had beef, to borrow the young kids' phrase, for some time. So apparently DeSantis don't like the new guy. He's like, well, Trump had to bail him out. He really wasn't going to win, but he's such a squish. So I guess they've had some issues for some time. Tell us what you really think there, DeSantis, right?
Well, he does have a habit of telling us what he really thinks sometimes. So we'll see.
Yeah. Got a couple minutes here before we hit the hard break, and we'll be back certainly right after the hour, after the break. But folks, you've been listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. I'm Todd McKinley in Northeast Tennessee, joined always by my conservatives, Common Sense Conservative co-host, Colonel Chris right there in Central PA, and John Grosvenor, who holds down the studio in Nashua. Love coming to you every Wednesday night, 7 to 9 Eastern, right here on these stations. Of course, we stream live on a number of platforms as well. So check us out wherever you get your podcast, or listen to us live on wsmn.live as well. Appreciate everybody who does tune into us, or who stream us, or wherever you watch us around the country or around the world. Really do appreciate our audience for sure. However big it is, we don't know. And I've had those questions before, trying to invite politicians on. They're like, well, how big's your audience? And I'm like, well, I don't sit around and figure out each download or guesstimate how many people are watching us live on a different platforms. I factor in an average AM FM station, and I add some to it, and I say, there you go.
That's just it. I mean, how do you gauge how many people are actually listening on a terrestrial radio station? You can look at the population for the reach and add it all together and tell them what the population reach is. But
I'm sure there's a percentage, you could figure out, But I say it's like this. We're probably inviting you on. People that are going to vote for you don't listen to us live, but you can use that interview later on in some publication, some form or another, or stream it on your own platform. And there you have it, a situation where we don't have any vested interest in some of these states or some of these, different places around the country, whatever office it may be. We don't have a vested interest other than bringing on good candidates. And I've had those questions on a couple of occasions, like, well, what's the size of the audience? It doesn't matter. This isn't your area anyway. Use the interview to your advantage in some other way.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of annoying.
The clips.
I don't know why I brought that up. I just popped into my head as we were talking about the different platforms. But it's just annoying that's the question that they ask. It's
because it is, because we've had people on shows, and not just the show, but other shows, the trucker show and everything, and they don't ask that question. We have good candidates like Kyle Sinclair will come on our trucker show. He's a repeat visitor, and he never says, well, what's your reach? He's just happy to be there, do his thing. It's as you said, if you'd like to go back and record some of that and use it for his own Facebook page, whatever, he's welcome to.
Yeah.
But you find these people that are just seeking attention. They're not in it because they care. They're in it because they're seeking attention. They're seeking fame. They're seeking notoriety. Those are the candidates we're trying to avoid anyway.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you on that. So we should be getting played off here in about a couple seconds. There, John's checking out the time. There we go, folks. We'll be back here in just a few minutes.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Dave Packer. At the White House today, President Trump detailed the tariffs he plans to impose on America's trading partners.
We will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%.
That's on all imports, plus what he calls reciprocal tariffs on other countries. ABC's Rachel Scott at the White House.
Roughly 60 countries, including some of America's closest trading partners, will face even steeper tariffs. A 34% tariff on all imports from China, a 25% tariff on products from South Korea, a 20% tariff on goods from the European Union. President Trump says the higher penalties come in response to tariffs those countries impose on American products they import.
You know, you think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad.
But economists point out tariffs on foreign goods coming into the U.S. are actually taxes paid by American businesses who pass on the cost to consumers by raising prices.
This is ABC News. Nashville police have released a report on the 2023 Covenant school shooting where 6 people, including 3 children, were killed. It shows how the shooter, Audrey Hale, was able to carry out the attack and how Hale hid mental health issues from doctors and family members. Stefan Banks is a Covenant school parent who's working to block the release of Hale's writings.
It explains how she learned from past attacks, revered past killers in their writings, researched targets, evaded mental health care intervention, acquired numerous firearms of choice without difficulty, learned to operate those firearms, prepared for the attack, and ultimately carried out this massacre.
Banks says he fears releasing the writings of the shooter could inspire other people. The New York Times reports Amazon has placed a bid to buy TikTok, the popular app in danger of being banned across the U.S. if its Chinese owner ByteDance doesn't sell to a buyer approved by the U.S. government. Multiple companies have reportedly made offers. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions, a very handsome reward indeed. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% IRA boost on annual contributions, sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
Join the Campers Inn family and save. For a limited time, get exclusive family pricing with up to 40% off select RVs, no hidden fees, just honest deals with no freight or prep markups. Looking to upgrade? Trade up and get an extra $1,000 for your RV. Enjoy exclusive parts discounts and free educational seminars to help you make the most of your RV. These VIP savings won't last. Visit Campers Inn RV today.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago. Servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument. Memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives. I'm Todd McKinley right here in Northeast Tennessee. Joined by my co host, John Grosvenor, holding down the studio in Nashua, New Hampshire, and Colonel Chris White in Central PA. We're live every Wednesday night at 7 to 9 Eastern. We make sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day. The Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. And of course, I just mentioned my fine co-host, Colonel Chris White. He stepped away for a few moments. He just messaged us on our page that he's going to be a couple more minutes before he gets back on here. I know a lot of his fans love to tune into the show live and, of course, watch the streaming portion of the show. Always appreciate the fans for sure, and always appreciate the input. Of course, they have in the little chat over here. Of course, throughout social media, we see a lot of the chats pop up. It's hard to monitor everything, every particular chat, but we do our best here. But anyway, I love the relationship he certainly has with his fans. I mean, just and his followers. It's great. And of course they relate to him, and at the same time provide a lot of input. You know what I mean? Of course, these are some informed fans he has. I love it. Just looking at the Colonel's fan base over here, it's pretty good stuff. Certainly, people that are informed, people that truly care about their country and care about their government and want to see better. And of course, we need that in our country too. And I know we have a lot of good people here as well. So.
I don't know a whole lot about South Africa, but from what I've heard about South Africa, it sounds to me like they need a lot of adjustment down there.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
I really feel for them.
Yeah, I do too. There's the Colonel, just chatting about you in South Africa and the need for reforms there. Talking about your fans as well, how good they are.
So how is the president doing there, Chris? I assume you were on the phone with Donald Trump.
We were talking about the tariffs. Yeah.
Oh, I thought he's offering you a gig over there in Kenya. He said, "Sorry, I couldn't give you South Africa, but Chris, but
no, I don't think the Trumpsters offer me any ambassadorships. But no, we're just talking about the tariffs, and I was wondering if we could put some special ones on California. He wouldn't answer that question.
California.
He does like to reserve his answers for so he doesn't trap himself. Them trap questions get him.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. No, it's a big day. It's huge. These Trumps are unbelievable. I don't know if you guys looked at the numbers. It's shocking to see some of these tariffs that other countries have been putting on the United States. I mean, really, really high levels. I mean, I mentioned some of them in Africa, but it's not just Africa. It's all over the world what some of these are doing. So what Trump has done is if anybody that had 10%, he just leveled up 10%. But if it was above that, he took half. So, for instance, Cambodia has a 97% tariff on the United States goods and services. So they're going to get a 49%. So Vietnam is 90%, and they're going to get a 46%. So I think it's very generous. We could have matched them. Reciprocal to me means the same, and we're not raising it to the same level. New Zealand has a 20% tariff on our goods.
Do you think maybe because of advantages and disadvantages, where they might be disadvantaged nations, and so he might not be going as high on them?
No, he's doing it with first world countries, first world economies, and he's doing it. I mean, across the board. Anyway, it's over 10%. He's gone up to half what they're charging us.
Yeah,
so there you go.
That's good deal. Yeah, I think some of it has to do with he's giving himself some leeway too to be able to work. I mean, if you match them right away, you have nowhere else to go.
Oh, you can go up. You can still go up. You can go 110, 120, 125%. You can really put the grind to them.
Yeah, well, you get to a point where it's just there's no effect where it's just like the heck with it, right? At that point.
Yeah, you're right. Staging it up like that, it kind of wakes them up. It's like, well, this kind of feels a little smart.
Yeah, these guys
maybe we
serious.
should start listening now. And if he goes up any higher, you got a good point.
Yeah, I think it's a good starting negotiating tactic, and I think it works in any business, especially high pressure business that Donald Trump's been associated with. You have stuff like that, hardball negotiations.
Mm-hmm. So, I think like you said, negotiations is a leverage point, and it's bringing the world back into a mindset. And that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to bring the world back into a mindset. Plus, he's trying to put this country back into the position of being first again. If we're going to have the strongest economy and people are going to rely on us, then we need to have respect, and we need to be able to be in a better position than where we've been. Trump's had a lot of good points on that. How do you feel about Mark Carney and his attitude towards the tariff war?
I think that's for the Colonel, right?
Either one. I thought maybe you might have an opinion.
I assumed it was for Todd.
Oh no, I've not read up on the tariffs today. I couldn't tell you anything. That's why I'm kind of like flustered. I'm trying to look at some of the stories that are out there. I'm like, I've not looked at any news the last couple of days. I've been working on some vehicles, trying to get them up and running, ready for the summer. So yeah, make him look good. So I've been
Mark
working on
Carney,
that.
Mark Carney is Trudeau's replacement until they
Okay.
actually have their election and he gets
Right.
actually elected. So his party put him into that
Head of the
position,
party, right? Yeah.
and he came back strong again. It's kind of interesting to me that Trudeau went to the head of state, and that's why I kept bringing up the head of state before, because it's weird that he goes the King of England to talk about that terrible Trump over there, talking about these tariffs and want to make us the 51st state, almost like a boo-hoo session with King Charles. And Mark Carney comes in really strong. He's kind of like a globalist. He's a world leader and banking and stuff like that. So I think they put him in that position so that he can be more of a peer to Trump and have negotiation strengths with Trump. But he kind of came out the gate really hard, like we're not negotiating with the United States. We're not. What they do to us, we'll do to them. And so he wanted to engage in the tariff war. I'm like, I don't think you're in a position to do that. So
no, you don't have an economy the same size, near the same size to be able to do something like that. So it's not going to work for you.
I think they're trying to switch gears and get to a different global market because they relied on the United States so much. They sell their oil to us, in which case we process it and everything, refine it. But then we sell it out in the globe. So we buy their oil to refine it and sell it into the global market. So we benefit from the purchase of their oil. I don't know if they're going to cut their nose, cut off their nose and spite their face on it and say, well, we're not giving you no more oil. Well, not getting any money out of us, are you?
Yeah, he's not up to the gravitas of Donald Trump. It's not even close. The only thing about this, the reason they put him in there wasn't really for gravitas. It was that they wanted to give him the power of incumbency. Since Trudeau was dead in the water, they needed someone to compete with Poilievre, the conservative. Yeah, it's the conservatives had a 20-point lead on the liberals in Canada until Trump got elected. And ever since then, the tide's been turning, not because of anything the Canadians have been doing, but because Canadians are terrified of Trump. And so they think rallying to the arms of socialist leaders are going to save them, and they're not. The irony is if they turn towards conservatives would lower the barriers and could compete with America equally, and we get along fine. And then, things would be great, but they don't want to do that.
Yep, that would be great. I mean, be able to have the best relationship with our northern neighbor, for crying out loud. And of course, if our ally, our special relationship across the sea there, wasn't so doggone crazy and hell bent on destroying the nation, we could still have that great relationship with them as well.
No doubt about it. Crazy. It's crazy what's going on here. This is probably the biggest news in global trade since the formation of the World Trade Organization. And what gets me is that the World Trade Organization allows people to take advantage of America and doesn't say anything, So it's about time. It took Trump to wake the world up, or at least wake Americans up to what's been happening to us.
Right. So quick question. When do you think Doge is going to wrap up its mission? Because Musk and President Trump are talking about, it's a temporary position, it's a temporary group, if you will. I don't know what the future of Doge is going to hold. But for Musk, it's a temporary position. He's going to be wrapping up apparently in the next few weeks. What do you think the future of Doge is going to be? Or are they going to put some sort of comprehensive bill together to kind of basically codify what they find out? Or is it just going to be kind of left by the wayside?
I thought they were trying to introduce a bill, didn't they?
Right. I think it was. I think it was something basically a catch-all that was going to roll everything up into one thing, and I don't think it's going to get the support to be able to do it all in one fell swoop, though.
I think Musk his position is a 120-day position, isn't? Is that why they had the 120-day deadline and all that on it? And
I think so, because he's in a special position. He's not like a assistant or a special assistant to the president. He's a special government employee at the moment. I don't know what he's classified as specifically.
Right, he's like a special advisor or something like that. But he yeah, so I you're right. They got their 100-day deadline, and I don't know if they're going to go on beyond that or not. I haven't seen anything as far as signaling that. It's an interesting question. I mean, they've got a lot of data and a lot of information. I think that they've been looking at this for the last 4 years. You guys remember those documents they wanted so bad? I was starting to wonder, what were those so-called classified documents Trump had? I'm starting to think that they've been looking at this and sizing this up, and they knew where to go as soon as Trump went into office.
I don't think they need classified documents to figure out where waste was in the government.
they claim that they had these classified documents, and I'm just thinking that maybe they were doing a lot of work in that 4 years, and that's why they were so terrified of Trump. They might have been signaled what's going on. You and I didn't know, but they might have known, and because they seemed awfully fearful that he had some sort of documents in his Mar-a-Lago estate, and didn't want to tell us what they were or what they were about or anything like that, you know, even the most vague way, but they certainly wanted them.
Yeah, look, the documents thing is a red herring. I mean, this happens with every administration, every president. The real issue there was Joe Biden as a senator stealing classified information
Yep.
and disclosing it on the Acela train every weekend. That's a real issue. Presidents have broad discretion on this, and they can basically say something's declassified by simply saying that's declassified, even if they compromise sources and methods, which is unfortunate, but they're the ones that actually do the classification. So, look, the Mar-a-Lago thing was all for theater, and it's another disgraceful act by an out-of-control Justice Department that was weaponized against Americans. When you weaponize against a former president that way, then everybody's fair game. And we've seen what they've done to people who are anti-abortion, putting them in prison for 5 years as felons when they committed no crime.
Yeah, got no argument against that either. That's a good point.
Yeah. So another member of Congress, AOC, she was asked whether her rhetoric and other people's rhetorics are responsible for the Tesla attacks, and of course won't answer that, and of course obfuscates and doesn't take any responsibility, and tries to push it back on Elon Musk as being responsible for the attacks on Tesla. Wow.
Well,
They've been
doing this
waiting
for
for an elevator. Yeah, all waiting for an elevator. Yeah,
they've been doing this for decades, haven't they? I mean, remember Maxine Waters telling people to go out there and protest. She was encouraging people to riot in the streets and
gasoline station and all that. Yeah,
yeah. They were queuing people in. It's kind of interesting in 2020 when they had these pallets of bricks showing up at bridges. And nobody knew where they came from, but they were just a pallet of bricks sitting there waiting for somebody to throw bricks off the bridge, you know, into the interstate. And
well, yeah, I don't know if we've had him on. I think we may have had him on this show. But a guy I interviewed on my podcast years ago, he talked about that walking through DC and seeing them dropping different pallets of bricks off. They cover them with tarps, nowhere near where actual construction is going on, or they would try to pretend like they would go near a construction site, but they would drop bricks and other things off that had no basis of being where it's at. You know what I mean? It's like it's not going to be used on that project, but it looks like it may be used on that project for the person who's just walking by, the casual observer. But they know where those things are. They geotagged where they drop these different bricks off, these projectiles.
These are premeditated incidences. It's like the cooler's full of frozen water bottles to throw at cops.
Yep.
This premeditated stuff. They intended to do that. That's why they froze the water and put them in coolers. And they had weapons to use against cops. But if they were questioned, well, frozen bottles of water, as they melt, we have water to drink, and it's always ice cold.
Right.
But,
yeah.
It's nonsensical, but it's what they did. And nobody really, I mean, the FBI did make some arrests in 2020 and all this other stuff. But as you know, there was somebody like, I don't know, Kamala Harris there to bail people out, Act Blue, and all this other stuff, fundraising so that they got bailouts, and the liberal judges that said, oh, well, you know, we're going to just dismiss these charges, you know, sort of like Eric Adams, right? Let's just dismiss the charges. It's okay, sweep it under the carpet.
Yeah, it's a workaround to be able to have a weapon, right? You know, back in the day, people would carry baseball bats, but then like somebody in the group would have a glove, and another guy would have a ball. Like, oh, we're just a ball team, you know? It's like these aren't bats to commit crime.
Well, somebody brings a baseball and a glove, we're all good, man. We're not going to get arrested.
We're just going to go to the park and play some games after we bash people's heads in with the bats. You know,
well, these like the brown shirts. It has nothing to do with the nails in my pocket. It's a wiffle ball bat. It's a wooden one. We made it, man.
Right. Well, there's a comedian, I can't remember who it was, and he's like talking about, you know, he grew up in New York, and he said, you know, I was going up in this rough neighborhood, and like this other group was coming through the neighborhood, cutting through, and I knew that they didn't belong there. And the next thing you know, I get up to this other street where this other gang hangs out, and he's like, it wasn't so much that they got weapons to brandish against this other gang. It's the fact that they had them so readily available. And the guy goes, get the bats. And everybody within like a second had a bat in their hand. And like one guy drops his glove and it's like they're ready to fight. It's like, he's like, this is amazing. They carry the glove and the ball around so the police won't harass them, but they have the bats ready for a gang fight. It's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Interesting. Get the bats. And they had the bats ready to fight, you know. It's like, wow. And this gang's just trying to cut through to go to wherever they were going, you know. Teenage gangs, weird.
It's like the gangs in New York.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. Get that rabbits or whatever. Yeah, the Bowery Boys. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, you got Bowery Boys. I remember that as a kid when I was watching that show, the Bowery Boys.
Yeah, I mean, all the gangs that were in the movie. The movie was obviously an exaggeration to a degree, but the gangs were actually real historical gangs for sure.
Yeah, they had that part in the movie where they're all dressing up like warriors and stuff, doing their hair up like it was some type of Hollywood-esque sort of thing. I'm like, you think gangs really did that? I mean, I don't think they were grooming themselves for the battle. I think they were just pretty much getting into the battle.
Right. But there were different, things that they would wear, the big stovepipe hats or whatever, different stuff like that. So they all had their own dress,
Oh,
if
they
you
had things
will,
that were, yeah, insignia
Oh
to
yeah.
them. Yeah.
Well, gangs to this very day do that, right? I mean, militaries do it. People from different teams do it. Team sports. So you have just a uniform basically. Gangs have uniforms for sure.
I suppose being
Insignia or whatever, tattoo, something.
being the guy here that's so non-Hollywood, I suppose I might say that we'd be remiss not to mention the passing of Val Kilmer here yesterday, and
nice man, yeah.
He did the was it Tombstone with Kurt Russell,
right?
And the insignia for the Cowboys was the bandana on the leg or on the waist. No, it
The
was the waist.
red
Yeah.
bandana. It was a red bandana, a
It was on
sash,
the
basically.
sash, yeah, on the waist.
It's like a sash, yeah.
Yeah. So
right. So
but Val
gangs have
Kilmer
it-
came into that when I started thinking about talking about these gangs and insignias and stuff.
Right. I mean, these insignias are certainly nothing new. It goes back to when civilization, people started, cover themselves with loincloths or whatever, animal hides. It's like, hey, mark something on that so we know you're part of us. People have been doing it since the beginning, right?
I say fight like the Irish did. They took off their clothes and stuff and fought naked.
Yeah, I don't know.
Imagine what
Maybe
it was
it's
like
just
with
some
the
guy-
Romans when they were looking at a bunch of naked Irishmen coming at them.
Yeah,
They glow white.
Right. Right. Yeah, that was yeah. Well, Romans really didn't go into to Ireland, and like they didn't really go up into Caledonia, which is Scotland, too much. They ventured up there and they left fairly quickly. They didn't occupy it for too long.
What was that queen? Was it Queen Mary that Scotland
no.
queen that was?
You're talking about that's much later on. Are you talking about the warrior queen from where she at
She led
Boudica?
Scotland.
Yeah,
Oh, you're
Boudica.
talking about Boudica was during the Roman occupation and invasion. But you're talking about much later. Yeah, if you're talking about Queen Mary, that was many centuries later. I can't remember
No,
what
I'm
century.
trying to think what her name was. I thought she went against the Romans. She led the Scots.
Boudica did.
To me,
No,
it was
Boudica-
weird that time period thinking about a woman leading men. It was-
Yeah, Boudica was a chieftain. She went against Rome, but she was from I don't know exactly what part, but more of the southern part of England, I believe.
Yeah, she was down
Yeah.
south, and she had quite a quite an impact on the Brits or the Romans, the British Roman culture. She wiped them out. Unfortunately, her army melted away, and they were wiped out. It all started because her husband was a king, a minor king who owed fealty to the Romans, and then they tried to steal her kingdom, and then they came to teach her a lesson, and they raped her daughters in front of her in public.
Wow.
And so
Yeah.
she raised an army, and she made the Romans pay, but eventually they got even.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, back
her.
then, you used to have these smaller client kingdoms that would, whenever a king would pass, they would will essentially their kingdom to Rome, and that happened on a regular basis back then.
Yeah. No, look, the Romans, they had their times when they were smart. They also had times when they're quite evil. So, and what
Right.
they did in the British Isles, most of it wasn't bad for Britain, but some of it was quite bad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
The Iceni was her tribe.
Yeah, the Icenians. Yeah, correct. Thank you, the Icenians. But a lot of what Rome did, I think it took what now I say pre England, if you will, and modernized it to a great degree and brought them together in a sense versus having warring tribes. It kind of brought them together in a lot of sense.
They still have warring tribes, Welsh,
Oh,
Scots,
yeah, well,
English.
it's true.
But,
I'm
but,
sorry.
but they're not shooting wars. That's good news.
No, that is good. Yeah, that's good.
They're never going to get along, are they?
Yeah, they get along. I mean, now they have other issues to unite them with all the people pouring into the country. That's kind of an issue for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a major problem. And of course, soccer and rugby is still an issue. They're going to fight over that to the end of time, probably. Football.
Well, and we're fighting over Protestants and Catholics there in Ireland for a longest time.
Well,
Absolutely.
in England, Protestants and Catholics in England was a big thing.
Yeah.
When the Church of England was formed, a lot of people refused to join it, and that led to some persecution of Catholics. That's why the colony of Maryland was established. It was a Catholic colony for Catholic refugees from England.
Right, that's true.
Wow,
Yeah,
the
wow.
Catholics had to flee. That's a new one.
They've been oppressed in England for centuries.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the Church of England, especially the Pope didn't want to give a divorce, and at the same time wanted to have that power over the king. And he's like, I don't want to, owe loyalty to you.
Yeah,
and basically started his own church, right? The Anglican Church.
Let's start with the Tudors with Henry VIII. He
Henry
couldn't get his
VIII,
divorce.
yeah.
He couldn't get his divorce, so he's like, you know what? I disown the church. We'll be Protestants.
Named himself the head of the church, right? To this day, the head of state there, the king, is the head of the church as well.
Well, he's
True
got a lot
story.
of duties.
A lot of duties. What are you talking about? Come on.
He's got to
Come
be a
on.
king. He's got to be head of the. He's got to be the high priest. He's got to.
Good to be the king, right? Good to be the king, right? Except whenever they bring out the chopping block, then it's probably not so good, right?
Yeah,
The
I'm
guillotine
thinking,
makes it. The guillotine makes an appearance. I'm good. I'm gonna abdicate. I'm gonna get out of here.
which Louis was during the French Revolution?
Oh, there was multiple Louis because they brought his
16th?
successor back, right? The 16th. I think the 14th was there at the beginning, and then the 16th came back later on, right?
It was Louis and Antoinette, right? For
Antoinette,
the
16th.
French
Yeah, yeah.
Revolution, they brought out the guillotines and
Yeah.
we're
Well,
done with you.
they tried to leave, but they were so stupid that she was like, "Oh, we're gonna leave as a family, all in the regalia, and we're gonna leave as a royal family." And then they're like, that's how they were spotted leaving France, because she wanted to go in the
Oh,
royal cart and have all these guards around them with all the regalia, and they wanted to take their
she didn't
prize.
understand the circumstances.
You probably should have snuck out in the middle of the night. You probably would have been safe, but she didn't want to do that. She's like, "Well, we're going to go out there head held high, but your head's going out in a basket." I'm sorry.
Speaking of leaving out, have you heard about Javier? I can almost say his last name there. President of Argentina. Said he's going. Yeah, he says he's going to declassify the rat lines there, where Hitler supposedly defected to Argentina, and which we all kind of had an idea. I mean, if anybody that read any Jim Marsh Rise of the Fourth Reich or anything had an understanding about this, but we all know that a lot of Nazis did defect to
sure,
or escaped. I guess I should say defect to nothing. They escaped their crimes and stuff to South America, and so apparently he's claiming that or the claim is that Hitler had lived in Argentina, lived for another 20 years or so, had a couple daughters.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
Yeah, let's see. He says he's going to declassify it, so let's see what comes out of it.
Reminds me of the movie The Boys from Brazil, that where they did clones of all the Nazis.
Yeah, I don't think that Hitler got out.
He got out. He wasn't stupid. He got out. He snuck away, faked his own death, and got out of there.
Yeah, I think there's too many witnesses to his death.
His witnesses were running with him.
Yeah, no, there were people that were in the bunker that lived actually lived in the UK for many years, married an Englishman, and who's basically
people that could get away with all this stuff, right? That could be witnesses, but really just false witnesses.
Is it plausible that he got away? There's a percentage maybe, but I highly doubt that he actually did. Somebody like Hitler, yeah. Especially with Mossad many years later getting some of these criminals, going into Argentina and actually extricating them and bringing them back for trial. I mean, if Hitler was there, I think they would have probably gotten him too, right?
I remember in the 1980s, almost like an Elvis Presley sighting, but in the 1980s, a lot of people used to claim they were in South America and saw Hitler down there, and
hanging out with
a lot of people
Elvis,
say they're
right?
still seeing Elvis Presley too.
Well, yeah, people see Elvis Presley every day in Las Vegas.
Elvis could still be alive though. That's the thing,
He technically he could be. He could have faked that. So could have Michael Jackson if you wanted to, I suppose.
Yeah, but people don't want to, believe that, their favorite stars die, these weird deaths out of the blue. They think they're going to live forever, and that's not the case.
Are you suggesting Adolf Hitler was some people's favorite star?
No. I'm just saying people like Elvis. You brought up Elvis, so I'm sorry, Elvis passed away.
That was an opportunity. Come on, I was not going to pass that by.
Well, people do love Hitler. That is true. There are a lot of people that do worship him and love the guy.
Skinheads left.
There are people out there that do that, but I don't think that he got away. Is it plausible? Is there a percentage chance? Sure, but I don't think that he did.
Well, they've caught several. They've caught people in this country. What was it? Just like matter of what, 5-6 years ago? I think they caught some old man in his 90s or whatever, who was actually a Nazi war criminal. He was living in the United States.
This just did. In Argentina, Hitler ran a sandwich shop there for 20 years after World War II. Oh, it's official.
Was a taco stand. Was a taco stand.
Taco stand. German tacos.
Adolfo's Tacos.
Adolfo's Taco. He puts a little mustache on the top. That's the little secret that he's like, wink. Adolfo's, a special sauce right on top. His little meat sauce on top or something. I don't know. It's like a little mustache. Taco-shun.
It's starting to sound like
you're like Adolfo's Tacos.
For those that can't
Casually,
see,
yeah.
Chris Wyatt's doing
The softer side of fascism.
what do you call that?
Tacos,
The high what is it called? The Zig Heil
Sieg
sign.
Heil, Sieg Heil. Yeah.
Doing the
I-
Sieg
I-
Heil
I-
on a waving formation. Yeah.
I was watching some videos, on YouTube. It's like those things. It's like things you've not really seen before. It's like one is where Hitler's like just talking in his normal voice, it's kind of like a low kind of voice, but it's a gravelly voice. But you can tell he'd been giving speeches for weeks on end. He had that voice, and then it builds up and builds up, and then it gets into the animation of the whole Zeke nonsense. But he speaks really calm, really cool, really collective. And he builds and builds and builds, and it's like that's not a normal speaking, but somebody who's rehearsed for years. But anyway, I don't understand how people could just follow somebody like that. I don't get how this is the guy who fascinated you. Somebody like Adolf Hitler. I don't understand it. I know there's a lot more to it. I don't know why we're getting onto Hitler here. I don't get.
I don't know where that came from. I'm just listening.
Technically, Hitler was not a stupid man, and there was things that
not
you might
stupid,
study him and say, "Wow," because of his
Sure.
intellect and his genius. You might be fascinated with certain aspects about Hitler. But at the same time, you're not going to sit there and praise the guy and say he was, an asset to the world or anything.
Yeah. No, absolutely not, for sure. But anyway, I don't know how we got on Hitler, but I don't think
It got to be a pretty funny subject for a minute there.
I don't think
If
that
you
he
say
escaped.
so.
I don't think that he escaped to Argentina, but if he did, he probably did do Adolfo's tacos. That's what we're going to go with.
So Kurtz is saying apparently Elon is the new Hitler, of course, with sarcasm.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Sarcasm. Yeah, I don't think so. You need to have yourself an Adolfo taco, everybody. Adolfo's tacos, the best.
Yeah. If Elon would
Donkeys-
just grow that little funny
Donka.
stash, I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, the nonsense to try to say that on Inauguration Day that he was giving a Nazi salute. I'm like, that was not a Nazi salute. I was in the room. I was in the building. I watched it firsthand, live and in person.
You throw a hand up in the air all of a sudden because the guy doesn't like you. It's a Nazi salute.
I mean, I could have threw a rock and hit somebody who was watching it. I couldn't have threw a rock and hit Elon. He was too far away, but I could hit somebody who was watching it.
Yeah,
that's
the
how
guy
close.
next
That's how
to you with
close.
his beer.
That's how close I was. I could
Was
have
he
hit a rock.
eating his Adolfo's tacos?
Yeah, he had it. He's like, I just got from my Adolfo's tacos. Sieg Heil, everyone. All right. As he does his wacky jump around.
Oh man,
I can see the commercials now.
that wasn't made with soy and green, was it?
Solid green is people.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay, just checking. Yeah, so at the top of the hour, I don't know if you guys caught that in the news. I checked on it when we were in the news. While the news break was on, they have Senate's passed a bill, 51 to 49, to try to overturn the tariffs. But I mean, Trump's not going to sign that, so they're not going to get the votes to override his veto.
You're right. Yeah, there was some Republicans that went over, and I think what's his name, Rand Paul out of Kentucky. He came over and voted against that, or voted with the Democrats on that. So
I'm surprised he and his father have been pretty anti-Trump. I shouldn't say they've been anti-Trump, but they've been against the tariffs and some of Trump's policies for quite some time.
Yeah, but when somebody like Rand Paul or Ron Paul comes out, they're going to tell you why, and they're going to explain it in great detail, and they're probably going to convince you to join them too.
I haven't been overly. I mean, I've always liked the Pauls, both of them, especially Ron. And Rand's quite good. I like Rand Paul, but yeah, they're totally against the tariffs, and I'm sitting over going, man, I'm cheering them on, and not because it's Trump. This is just something, if you've been listening to the show, you've heard me say it at the beginning when it was first discussed. I was for the tariffs at the beginning, and I had reasons why.
Right. Yeah, you have reasons why.
So, but the Pauls have the opposite reasons. They think it's just going to bring on tariff wars and it's just unjust and yada yada yada. And I don't think it is unjust. I think it's the way to right the ship.
Yep, and I think he's going to bring a lot of these countries back to the table, and they're going to say, you know what, you're probably right. They're going to lower their tariffs, or they're going to get rid of them outright. I think he will with most of these countries.
Exactly, but then you get, it's like we discussed before. When it comes to tariffs, you can raise tariffs on auto parts or whatever, but people love their coffee. You might not raise the tariffs on the coffee. You might, so you can cherry pick what you're going to charge for tariffs. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be all the way across the board. It can be itemized.
Yep. Kurt's here. He says, Sean, he says that Jacob Zuma is the greatest comrade ever. Greatest comrade ever. I love it. Zuma math. All right, that's funny. God. Colonel, what
Yeah.
are you looking to talk about? I know you probably have a million things that we could delve into. Hitler tacos, whatever the case may be. What are we looking at?
I don't think Hitler tacos are my agenda.
That was a
I've
Delta.
done my part. I've named the brand Adolfo's Tacos.
I love
Yeah.
it. We need to come up. I'm coming up with a logo.
Adolfo's
with a logo.
Tacos, the soft shell of fascism. There
The
you go.
soft shell of fascism. I love that's the
There you go.
slogan. The soft
Yeah.
shell of no hard tacos. 9.
No soup for you. No soup for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9. No,
Okay.
no hard.
Adolfo's soup wagon. No soup for you. No, I think the tariffs are the biggest thing. I mean, that's everything's driving that right now. How that comes out, and I think that John was onto something a few moments ago. He was alluding to, or maybe it was you. I think it was John, but talking about. I think people are going to capitulate. But the thing is that it's not going to go back the way it was. Trump is not going to lower reciprocal tariffs once he raises them 10% to match other people. So they're just going to have to live with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're going to come to the table probably quicker rather than later, or sooner rather than later, for most of these places. There'll be some of the larger countries that may try to hold out and go tit for tat with them, but eventually I think they'll cave on something and say they made a deal so people can save some face. But I think some of the smaller nations will probably just capitulate quickly, which they should.
Yeah, well, I mean, the levels of what these countries have been charged. But look, I understand why some of these countries charge these tariffs. It's not justifiable, but they're protecting their economies because they don't have the scale to produce. But I mean, the threat isn't the U.S. The threat is China, and they should be worried about China.
Yep, China, and of course the way the Soviet Empire used to be back in the day too, which is what China is today. They basically replaced the Soviet Empire essentially.
Well, in some respects, yeah, but China's really a mercantilist state. They're really, in my view, I look at China as like the golden age of mercantilism of Europe, when the Dutch and the Portuguese and the Spanish were rapaciously taking resources around the world and then sending their goods back to their colonies, and that's kind of how China is.
Okay, right, John, you were jumping on something, or are you coughing down there?
Well.
Oh, John's coughing. The COVID. He's contaminating the
Don't
glass.
say that. George will be listening. He'll be going, "Oh my God, John, no!" George
is going to have to disinfect everything.
I've got the Clorox out. Okay, I got the Clorox for you.
Do not drink that, John. Do not drink that.
We're gonna have to call 911 for John.
No, it wasn't for that. It was for the paper towel sitting over here, and a little dab here, a little dab there.
Little dab do you? Yeah. Get the
any germs here on the surface here, so that I don't want George coming in behind me. And I got my own little screen here on the microphone. Just
there you go.
In case, I think I'm past the point of being contagious, but just in case, I don't want to leave him with anything.
Keeping it safe. Yeah, I think we all definitely need to try to come up there at one point and do a show from the studio. I think
that would be kind of awesome.
All of us in the studio. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Maybe we'll see if we can get some gubernatorial guests to come in. We all show up and we're all, berating them, giving them a hard time. I don't know. Give them the tough interview. I don't know.
I might have to get some better lighting in here though, so folks can see you.
Yeah, I got you.
Well, that was kind of the idea when Don Bolduc was running. We were trying to come up for the primary there for the election. It just didn't work out. Remember?
Yeah, that's true. We'll figure it out. But I'd love to see, like we talked about last couple shows about Don Bolduc maybe running for something, perhaps in the next election.
I haven't heard anything, but that would be exciting to see.
Absolutely, and I know you reached out to him, or you're going to reach out to him, see him, maybe get him on the show or something like that, or maybe your show. I don't know if did he ever reach back out to you or anything.
Which one, Chris or me? Chris said,
I think he was talking to me. No, I don't recall if I did, to be honest. I've been so swamped with 15, 18-hour days. I mean, it's I find myself falling asleep sometimes. It's just I'm not 22 anymore. It takes a bit more energy to keep that pace of 15, 18 hours a day. I've been doing that since about the 16th of January. So now I'm into my third month of basically acting like I'm a 22-year-old lieutenant, killing myself in the field here. It's it wears on you. I don't recall if I did write to him or not, to be honest. I'm busy scheduling interviews and responding to all the news and then predicting things and then dealing with this refugee nonsense in South Africa. It's really eating up a lot of my time. I wish the U.S. government just announced their program, but in the meantime, it's been very productive for my program.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of content for sure. Another one thing I know we haven't touched on is Iran. I mean, I haven't heard a lot out of Iran over the past couple of days, but where do you see the situation in Iran going under President Trump, especially with their nuclear capability or their potential nuclear capability?
Well, if they don't have a nuclear weapon, they got to be very close to it at this stage. So that's a very
Yeah.
serious concern for Trump. Trump is going to do the maximum pressure on Iran again, whatever that means. I'm not sure, but Iran has friends, and that's part of the problem.
Well, they buy friends anyway. I mean, they fund a lot of Houthis and whoever else out there in the Mideast to do their dirty work for them.
That's true, but
what did they just do? Didn't they just? No, it was Turkey just set up a base in Syria. I was thinking Iran, but I think it was Turkey.
Turkey's heavily involved in Somalia. I didn't know, and also in Ethiopia. I didn't realize that they were doing that much in Syria.
The story went something about they wanted to deposit some planes there or something because they want to get into F-35 jets or something, and I don't know. They're trying to get in Trump's good graces, but they opened up a base in Syria, I guess, and put a bunch of F-400s or something. I'm not sure what F-400s are. I'm not into the plane, so I don't know.
There's
F-18. I know what that is, but
there's the A400, but that's a transport plane.
Oh, okay. So I don't know what their intentions or purposes are as far as Turkey goes. I didn't go in any depth on it to read into it. I thought Iran was doing something too, but I couldn't remember the details on that. So I guess that's kind of pointless. But I did see that Senator Banks was confronted in an elevator. That was kind of interesting. Somebody griping about losing his job, his DEI job.
Oh, right. Yeah. Didn't he say something like, well, it sounds like you deserved it?
He's complaining about losing his job. He goes, what do you want me to do? He's like, so then he looks at him just before the doors close. He goes, well, it sounds to me like you deserved it.
Yeah, sounds like you deserved it. Yeah, apparently he was being a real a-hole in the elevator, trying to just really ripping him. And he wanted to do something about his job. He's like, well, it sounds like you deserve to be fired. And walked away. I'm like, that's right. I mean, the guy can't give you a hard time and then pretend like, oh, it's Trump's fault.
Well,
I mean,
I think it was
he probably got fired for cause. Yeah.
I think it's another one of these leftist trap things. They tried to get
of course
Banks. They tried to trap him into this and say something.
Yeah.
They were looking for him to respond just that way, and he did so accordingly.
Yeah.
But instead of being the bad guy for responding that way, all the conservatives are like cheering him on, and finally some backbone.
Yeah, well, the thing is, he had a hidden camera. Obviously they were trying to get him. They're goading him into saying something in the elevator, and apparently he didn't go for it. And next thing you know, he's like, "Yeah, you look like you deserved it." That's it. Hey, why not? Right? Kind of like John Kennedy out of Louisiana. I love how he has no problem just saying what he thinks and what he feels. Says it like it is sometimes, right?
Well, I think the thing of Kennedy's awesome. He holds nothing back.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is these people think they're owed a job in the government. It's like, it's not the government's job to employ you people. I'm sorry, it's not. We need to downsize the government. The government's out of control for spending. And if we don't get this under control,
we're going to
have a lot of
it's
problems.
all going to collapse.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We can't go bankrupt, but yet we're going to be in default.
Yeah, sure. Yep, sure. Yeah, so a leading candidate conservative says that Ottawa should remove all tariffs as Liberation Day arrives. As Ottawa, as Canadians brace themselves for President Donald Trump's Liberation Day of reciprocal tariffs on Wednesday, one political leader in Canada believes it could spark the start of a new era of Canada-U.S. relations free of cross-border taxes. Maxime Bernier, who served as foreign affairs minister and former Prime Minister Stephen Harper's conservative government, and now has the right-wing People's Party of Canada, PPC, told Fox News Digital in an interview from Halifax. So absolutely, the time for Canada to remove all tariffs against the U.S. is here. So that would be interesting to see if they would remove all the tariffs. I think it is high time. And hey, we could remove all the tariffs and work together and figure out a way to have people be able to traverse across those borders a lot easier, as long as they're vetted for sure. Be able to foster better trade and, of course, more open relationships between our northern neighbor, who we share, at least with most of them, the same language, for crying out loud, except the French. I don't know. I mean, we should be getting along with Canada, for crying out loud. I don't get this incessant nature to want to poke at us, and we don't wish to poke at these folks either, because we're pretty much right in line with with them. We're it's not unlike they're. It's a foreign nation for sure, but it's not like you're going to say Germany or somewhere where they speak a different language. It's essentially like America if you go to Canada, for crying out loud. I don't see why we should have any issues with these people. They shouldn't have any issues with us. I don't get it.
Well, the Conservatives lost control of Canada a number of years ago, and that's what they're dealing with now, and they haven't got control back. So that's kind of a problem for them, and hopefully they will.
Yep, and I guess maybe it's partly because it's not so much that we're having issues with Canada or Canadians. It's the ideological left that we're having the issues with. I think that's probably more the issue there.
No, it's purely ideological. You're right about that. But the Canadians really have lost the plot, and conservative Canadians have been apoplectic about what's been happening there for a number of years. There's a book that I read that I picked up in Canada when I traveled up there back in 2003, and it was called "While Canada Slept," about how Canada lost its way in the world. Canada, for a century, punched above its weight in geopolitics in the world, contributing to global conflicts in a major way, playing a major part in peacekeeping, economically much more powerful than a country of size should have been, but they lost their way with their socialism.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with that. Yeah, no nation can sit there and take on that many people living off the taxpayers as long as Canada has done it. And of course, the United States, we're finding out that we can't do it as well, regardless of how large our economy is. I mean, we're pushing 37 trillion, maybe 40 trillion in debt over the next several years. We're going to be there if we don't do something. I mean, it's right around the corner, really.
Well, and that's, again, as I've said many, many times, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you've got corporate debt, you've got, which is not as bad because it can be serviced. You've got unfunded pension liabilities, you've got municipal, county, state debt, consumer debt, mortgage.
Yep. Oh, I'm going to send you guys something here. I think you guys are going to like it. One of our best fans has made us a little Hitler taco. I'm going to show this real quick on my camera here. I don't support Hitler in any way, but somebody did make this for us. If anybody watching can see that, a little Hitler taco.
No, you need to identify and take the Hitler off and say Adolfo's tacos. That's what
Adolfo's taco. Yeah, Adolfo's taco. There we go. And of course, what did you say about the shells, the soft shell, whatever?
Hitler says Adolfo's tacos, the soft shell of fascism.
The soft shell of fascism. That's it. I do apologize for coughing on air, but yeah, somebody did send me that. They're like, "Hey, I got you." So, anyway,
it's funny. So, oh, go ahead.
No, I said I'm not going to say who because it's somebody who regularly makes things for me, and I don't want to get them in trouble. Somebody be like, "Oh, she's a Hitler sympathizer." And I'm like, "Certainly not. Certainly not."
Well,
Good humor.
That's why you need to change it to Adolfo's tacos.
Yeah, Adolfo's. Who's this Adolfo's guy? I don't know. He made good tacos apparently. I don't know. Especially in Argentina, he basically he patented the whole idea of a gut truck, a roach truck, right? Now we call them food trucks, right? We used to call them back gut trucks, or back in the day in the army, gut trucks. Here, the rain shifts down, everybody goes to the gut truck, get your gut bombs, and it goes back to shitting.
The first time I ever rented one of those things was in AIT at Fort Gordon. They came out to the training area. It was pretty well. Yeah.
And it's funny, isn't it? Like everybody who drives one of those is somehow a former sergeant major. Or
of course, yeah.
Yeah. I was sergeant major over there. It's like, really? We had 50 sergeant majors at the same time. How's that possible? All the taxi drivers on Fort Gordon, former sergeant majors. I'm like, how's that possible?
I liked Fort Gordon. That was where I did AIT.
I did too. Yeah,
it was nice. I don't know when you were there, but I was Fort Gordon in 1984, and it was great music back then. The NCO club, anybody get in the NCO club was pretty cool, and it was awesome. It was hopping. I went horseback riding there. It was really nice, and I've enjoyed the exercise we did there and everything. I even had sea rations. The only time I ever had sea rations in my life, they actually still had them in their inventory, and we had them at Fort Gordon.
Wow.
Not that I would recommend sea rations; they weren't special. Just so I can say I had that experience.
Well, that's where I got into actually playing golf. The guys during what was called BNOC back in the day, Basic Non-Commissioned Officers course. We went out, after class, and we just shoot around the golf in the afternoon, have a couple beers, hit the driving range. It was fun. I mean, I loved it. Great weather, and of course, what better place to learn how to play golf than Augusta, Georgia, home of the Masters, right? Never got to play on the Masters course, but I did get to go on a couple times there for different events, but I never got to walk on the grass out there and just enjoy it. But I did get to see a little bit of it.
Well, I was at Augusta when the Masters was played there. It was pretty cool. I mean, not on the
Yeah.
golf course. You walk around the course around town, but the thing about Augusta is the golf course is great, but the town, ooh, it's
Yeah.
got some bad parts to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And you drive around the golf course and it's like just high fenced all the way around it. It's kind of wild. It's like, what's on the other side of that fence? Well, that's the golf course. Interesting. It has better security than Fort Gordon does for sure.
So it's like the Truman Show. Nobody can see in and nobody can see out. So
Right. Yep, absolutely, for sure. So sorry about this. Somebody give me another text message. I'm sure they're gonna.
Are you getting the Adolfo's Tacos update?
I'll see if I get an Adolfo's. If I do, I'll show you guys here in a few minutes. But I'll make sure you guys get Adolfo's taco off the air if I don't get it beforehand. Adolfo's taco. That is funny as heck. I love it. So final few minutes here. I know we probably got a little less than eight minutes or so, whatever we got here on the air. What round the horn here? What are some things that we maybe haven't talked about this show? And I know we're going to probably get to some great topics next week. But what are some things we haven't talked about that we maybe want to touch on?
Baseball's back.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, finally.
I've not followed baseball since they dropped the All-Star game in Atlanta over the voting down there, their bigotry. So I'm going to give baseball a chance again this year. But the Orioles came out of the gate scoring like 8-9 runs a game, but they're still like 3-3 now after 6 games. So hopefully their pitching can improve.
Wow, yeah, the Braves they've had a horrible start apparently, but 180 some games, 181 games. That's a long ways to go. You can lose a few here and there, but hopefully no losing streaks. But I love baseball. I love being able to sit out there. I went to a University of Tennessee game a few weeks ago, and they were number 1 in the nation, and they lost to East Tennessee State University, which is the next city over here in Johnson City, Tennessee. Lost in extra innings. Number 1 team in the nation, lost to an unranked 15-4 team at the time. But it was a great baseball. Loved it being able to sit out there, just in the environment. It's beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, the thing about baseball is it can be very relaxing. I mean, I love watching baseball on television as a kid, playing baseball, and then I was away from it for a long time. It's 1 year after I came back from Africa, I went to I think 27 different minor league ballparks in one season.
Holy cow. Yeah. I've only been just a handful of minor league teams. And of course, we have a summer league team here in Northeast Tennessee, the Appalachian League. It was a rookie league back in the old days, an actual minor league rookie team. Now it's the summer college baseball program. It's the Appalachian League. So I'd love to see the college kids play too. So it's wonderful, wonderful. And of course, future Major League Baseball players there for sure. And it's kind of neat to see, not into the prime, obviously, but as they're coming up and still learning. But just watching them play is it's just amazing. You're thinking, yeah, I could have probably never done that. These guys are fast, and then they're all over the place. It's like, man, you were probably a good baseball player in high school, but these guys are just some level, 10 levels above. It's unbelievable.
No,
John,
I'm
you're
hungry
not
for
into baseball?
tacos, guys. No, I'm
Oh, you
hungry
got the
for
tacos on your mind.
No, I wasn't too big into baseball. It was kind of a slow sport to me, but
Well, it's a slow sport.
I like
mean,
football where everybody got beat up.
It's only exciting if everybody gets beat up in football. Well, that's fair enough. Okay.
But
there it is, Adolfo's Taco.
Yeah,
It's Adolfo's Tacos, not
I got
Adolfo's
one.
Taco. Adolfo's Tacos, the soft shell of fascism.
I love it. It is funny.
Oh, here's another one.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, that is funny. So he
So,
had the best.
Now serving hard and soft shells. Shells instead of shells. That's funny. Anyway.
Octoon. Go ahead, John.
Oh, geez. So Elise Stefanik, I thought she had decided to turn Trump down for the ambassadorship.
I thought they pulled that back. What are they going to resubmit it?
I thought she was the one that said, I'm not going to accept because I want to stay in the House where we chance losing conservatives. So she wanted to keep her seat. But they're announcing that Trump pulled that away from her. Nobody knows why.
Yeah, well, I heard that Trump pulled it back because the person who was going to run for that seat was underwater and didn't have a chance to win. So they decided to keep her in place.
Oh, and maybe he did it. I thought she did.
Who knows who's telling the story? I thought he pulled it because he was in danger of losing that supporter in the House. I think that's maybe what it was.
We
Could have
had
been a combination.
We did have a discussion here where
all those different people. Yeah, because all those different people that he pulled out of the House and Senate to serve in the cabinet or sub cabinet.
Threatens the midterm elections. They start filling those seats elsewhere, or special elections because they have to fill those seats or appointees.
Yep.
And chances flipping the House or the Senate, and we don't really want to lose that. If we can keep our trifecta, it'll benefit us in the final 2 years of his administration.
Yep, true.
Well, now they've got those two races they've just won. So, I mean, those that they retained them, the margins were much lower. They went from 66 in both cases down into the 50s, but still decisive victories in the former Mike Waltz and Matt Gaetz seats. But, I mean, they're heavily Republican districts, so anything other than win would have been a shocker. But they did need to win those, and that does increase the margin now in the House of Representatives, which is necessary.
Yep, absolutely. And then those guys have, not quite 2 years, but they have enough time to be able to get their name out there, and of course to be able to meet the people in the different area. And of course, a midterm election is going to have more turnout for sure, and it's going to heavily favor the Republicans in a safe Republican district for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, people are talking about the Wisconsin thing, like the Supreme Court, like, well, people are turning their back on Trump because that's nothing to do with Trump. That race has nothing to do with it. And it's a liberal state, and it's already a 4-3 composition. It's not like they flipped the court to liberal from conservative. So people just need to go out to the polls, and not enough people went out to the polls from the right party, and that's the difference there. But voters in Wisconsin did vote to uphold and extend the voter ID law. That's good news. So, and there were 2 races in Florida.
Absolutely. So for sure. Yeah. So to me, it's not some referendum against Trump or anything like that. It's, people didn't show up. It's a special election. It's sometimes people don't even know that an election is going on in special elections like that. It's up to the parties and the individuals to get the word out in a lot of situations like that. And if people aren't in tune to the news locally, they're not going to know what the heck's going on. And of course, a lot of stuff that slips through the cracks.
People do live busy lives, and the benefit to having downturn economies and stuff is they have to work, 2 and 3 jobs sometimes and become ultimately more busy just trying to sustain themselves, and they miss out on things like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So what do we got? About 2 minutes there, John?
We got about 3-4 minutes. I see that Department of Justice is seeking death penalty for Mangione there, Luigi Mangione. So I guess
Rightly
he's going to face the music on his dirty doings.
Yep, rightly so. Yep.
Every time I hear that name, all I think of is Chuck Mangione.
Yeah, I heard that trumpet.
That's not fair to Chuck.
No, Megalomart, right? Megalomart.
Oh,
Bobby.
King of the Hill. Yeah, that was
down at Megalomart. I saw Chuck Mangione in there. Yeah. The new Megalomart. That's so funny that he picked Chuck Mangione out of everybody to make this whole thing up. I love it. So funny.
Well, the Chinese aren't happy about their tariffs, but they're not moaning. Some of these other countries are going to be moaning big time about this whole situation with tariffs. You wait and see.
So
well, it's good. Go ahead, John.
TikTok has a deadline for April 5th. You guys
That's right. People, no. I warn people. It's a 90-day respite. If they don't get their ownership structure, then they're going to get blocked. That's Trump gave 90 days. People forgot about that. 90 days are up.
Yeah, I was thinking that they just let that go, and apparently Amazon's making a bid on that. So it's still going to stay to the left.
Oh, jeez.
You can count on censorship.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That's why I don't put much on TikTok anymore, because it's such a bogus platform.
It's a crap platform.
Yeah.
It's the worst anymore.
Yeah, horrible TikTok and Instagram. I mean, it's basically leftist nonsense and sicko porno stuff. You know what I mean? It is. It's on there. And human trafficking. It's all right there.
So tell us about your experiences there, Todd.
No, well, I went to Adolfo's Taco the other day, and I was refused. He was like $9.99. I was refused. I asked for hard shelf tacos. He said,
was it $9.99 for like
maybe $9.99? Yeah, $9.99.
You got confused and you thought he was saying no. You can't have any tacos.
Yeah, this guy's a real taco Nazi. That's what I said. I got out of there.
Taco Nazi. You cut off from tacos for 1 year.
Soup Nazi. But it's funny is that guy, the soup guy, I think that's what he goes by. He made a lot of money off of that soup Nazi nonsense. I mean, he was pissed at first, but he's made a lot of money off of that. I mean, after the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of money.
We got a place over here, Collins soup. What is it, Collins? That's all they do is make soups, and they got a little sign up there about the soup Nazi and stuff. I mean, they even embrace that one,
Yeah, any bisque? They do any bisque over there?
I think they do.
Cream soups. Yeah, I
Lots of
love
chowders,
that.
lots of
All
goodness.
right. That's our show, folks. We'll be back next week right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM.